Then 1. Listen carefully. Something is shifting, not just around you, but above you. The heavens are stirring. The silence in the spirit has been broken. And angels, yes, real angels are being dispatched on divine assignment. This is not a dream. This is not metaphor. This is not just another feel-good message. You are not here by accident. You are not listening to this by coincidence. This is divine intervention. Heaven has interrupted your feed, paused your scrolling, and shut down all distractions just to speak to you. Because when angels begin to move, the chosen ones must respond. There are assignments being released, blueprints unfolding, swords being drawn, and you, chosen one, have just been summoned. This is not for the masses. This is for the marked, and you are marked. You've always known there was something different about you. No matter how hard you tried, you couldn't blend in. You couldn't hide. You couldn't be like everyone else. That wasn't a flaw, it was evidence. You were sealed by heaven for such a time as this. You may have felt forgotten, overlooked, ignored, but the heavens have never stopped tracking your every step. God has not forgotten what He put inside of you. You are not late. You are not lost. You are right on schedule for this very moment, the moment the angels begin to move. And now they are moving. You feel it, don't you? That pressure in your chest, that heat in your spirit, that rising awareness that something unseen is watching, guiding, nudging you. That's not anxiety, that's angelic activity. You've been sensing the movement of heaven, and you didn't even know how to explain it. That's because the language of the Spirit speaks louder than your natural ears can process. But your spirit knows, and it has awakened. You are not who you thought you were. You are more. You've been operating beneath your true rank, walking in rooms heaven called you to rule, entertaining warfare meant to bow to your authority. But now the veil is lifting. Now your eyes are opening. You're beginning to remember who you are. You are not just called, you are chosen. And the chosen ones don't get to sit idle when heaven shifts. You have an assignment. You have a voice that disrupts the darkness. You have oil that breaks yokes. You have prayers that shake foundations. You have a light that terrifies demons. This is not a motivational moment. This is a commissioning. God is marking you again, not with fear, not with guilt, but with glory. It was proclaimed in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 1, verse 7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. So why do you still hesitate? Why do you still feel small? Why do you keep apologizing for your fire, your truth, your light? This world tried to tame you, shame you, silence you, but they failed, because heaven is now amplifying the very voice the enemy tried to destroy. Chosen one, the angels are moving. That means you must move too. You cannot delay. You cannot dismiss this moment. You are being watched by the realm of heaven, and the realm of darkness is terrified because it knows your awakening will shift everything. If you could see what is happening around you in the spirit, you would fall to your knees in reverence. Warring angels, messenger angels, revival angels, they are circling, waiting for your agreement, waiting for your obedience, waiting for your yes. When God begins to move, He doesn't warn the crowd. He warns the consecrated, And that's why you're hearing this now. This message was never meant to go viral. It was meant to find you, because you are part of a holy remnant. So don't scroll away like it's just another post. Don't treat this like content. This is a summons from the throne room of God. You are standing on the edge of divine instruction. And one yes can change your entire bloodline. One yes can shift entire cities. One yes can bring heaven into your home. This is not just for you. You are carrying something for nations. You were never just meant to survive. You were meant to respond. Respond with your spirit. Respond with your voice. Respond by showing heaven that you are listening. And when you hear him respond with surrender, that's when the real movement begins. That's when heaven backs you. That's when angels begin to war on your behalf. So, stop running from it. Stop doubting it. Stop calling yourself unworthy. You've been chosen. That is the highest worth you could ever carry. If your spirit is stirred right now, if something deep inside you knows this is more than a message, it's a moment then. Type this in the comments. 777. I respond to heaven's call. This is your confirmation. This is your commissioning. This is your call. And your response will echo in eternity. You've been marked in the Spirit, long before you ever heard these words. Before the battles, before the heartbreaks, before the confusion you were seen, you were chosen. You were sealed, not by men, but by God Himself. This wasn't recent. This wasn't random. This wasn't an afterthought. Heaven had a conversation about you. There were strategies written, assignments planned, realms discussed, and your name was in the room. You think you've just been wandering, but you've been walking through prophecy. You think you've been surviving random seasons, but you've been moving through divine preparation. Every setback, every delay, every detour, it wasn't disqualification. It was training. It was sculpting. It was refining. Even when you weren't looking for Him, heaven never took its eyes off of you. There is a mark in the spirit realm, an invisible seal that rests upon the chosen. The world doesn't see it. People around you may not acknowledge it, but the spirit realm knows. That mark terrifies darkness. That mark disrupts demonic agendas. That mark is why you've been through more than most. You weren't marked for comfort. You were marked for calling. The enemy recognized it before you did. That's why you've been attacked since childhood. That's why your name was targeted. That's why your confidence was assaulted. That's why your identity was questioned. Because hell saw what you hadn't discovered yet. You were dangerous. You never fit in because you were never meant to. The chosen never blend in. They often stand alone. Misunderstood, misread, even mistreated. But it was never rejection by God. It was protection of your identity. You weren't designed to follow the crowd. You were designed to break chains the crowd accepted. God didn't mark you to impress people. He marked you to carry glory. And glory doesn't bow to popularity. This is why you've always felt different. Even in rooms full of people, there was something unspoken that separated you. That deep sense of otherness you tried to shake, that was heaven's fingerprint, a sign of divine distinction. You tried to silence it. You tried to numb it. You tried to be normal, but nothing worked. Because what's inside you doesn't conform to earthly patterns. It responds only to the sound of heaven. That's why you've always longed for something more. Chosen ones don't crave fame. They crave truth. They crave justice. They crave righteousness. They crave purity in a polluted world. Even when you stumbled, even when you fell into sin, the hunger never left. That's because your calling isn't dependent on your perfection. It's anchored in God's purpose. The mark isn't removed when you fail. It simply becomes more visible when you rise again. You've been through things that would have crushed others, but you're still standing. That's not strength, that's sealing. You were preserved because you're assigned. The enemy didn't hold back, but grace held you tighter. And now that grace is pulling you forward again, into alignment, into clarity, into remembrance. You've been forgetting who you are. Life made you forget. Pain made you forget. Disappointment made you forget. But heaven remembers. And now, it's calling you back into position. Do not underestimate what you carry. The dreams you've had, the visions, the way you sense things before they happen, the way you can discern motives. Feel atmospheres shift. Notice when something's wrong before anyone says a word that's not paranoia. That's prophetic awareness. It's part of your wiring. You weren't just marked to exist. You were marked to lead. Not through title, not through platform, but through presence. The presence you carry changes spaces, not because of you, but because of who's in you. This is why mediocrity frustrates you. Why lies irritate your spirit. Why compromise makes you restless. You weren't built for surface living. You were made to go deep. You were made to carry holy fire. We find in the book of Philippians, chapter 4, verse 13, I can do all things through Christ, who gives me strength. Some ran from their calling. You tried too, but it didn't work, because you can't unmark what heaven has sealed. God's hand is on you, and that hand doesn't lift just because you feel tired. The anointing doesn't vanish just because you feel inadequate. You are not chosen because you're perfect. You are chosen because He is. And His word will not return void. He didn't mark you for a season. He marked you for eternity. And that mark is awakening now. The silence is breaking. The slumber is lifting. And the fire is returning. You've been called out, not to be exposed, but to be revealed. Because when the angels move, the marked ones rise. Divine interruptions are not coincidence. You've felt it. The pause, the strange tension. The doors that once opened easily now feel sealed shut. The things you used to enjoy now feel empty. The rhythm of your life is off. The silence is loud. But hear this clearly. What you are walking through is not chaos, it's orchestration. Heaven is pressing pause on purpose. Because the chosen ones cannot continue as usual when God is moving unusually. This is a holy disruption. Your schedule didn't change itself. Your peace didn't evaporate for no reason. The unrest in your soul, the uneasiness in your spirit, it's all pointing to something deeper in divine interruption. God is interrupting your flow so He can reroute your future. Every time you start to drift toward distraction, something pulls you back. That's not random. That's not a glitch in your emotions. That's divine restraint. Heaven is intervening to keep you from walking into places your calling can't survive. You've been feeling blocked. But what if that's protection? Not punishment? You've been calling it delay. But what if it's design? Sometimes, the biggest evidence that you're chosen is when your plans fall apart, so His can take over. You were never called to live in control. You were called to live in surrender. And surrender always starts with interruption. Think about it. Moses was interrupted by a burning bush. Esther was interrupted by an orphan's crown. Paul was interrupted by a blinding light. And now, you're being interrupted by divine tension because your assignment is too important to be left on autopilot. God won't let you keep pretending. He won't let you get comfortable in mediocrity. He loves you too much to let you miss the moment. The silence you're feeling, that's not absence, it's weight. It's heaven rearranging the atmosphere around your life. Every misfire, every closed door, every moment of restlessness is a whisper from God. Pay attention. I'm doing something new. Learn. It is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 19. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? But that's the problem, isn't it? You've been so caught in the cycle of surviving that you stopped perceiving, you stopped discerning, you stopped recognizing the supernatural signals all around you. And now God is forcing your attention, not to punish, but to prepare. You were never meant to live asleep in your own purpose. So He's waking you up through discomfort, through silence, through the sudden stillness that makes no sense in the natural. You've been feeling like something is coming. That's because something is, but it won't come while you're distracted. It won't arrive while you're numb. Heaven is trying to pull your spirit into alignment so that when the release comes, you're ready to carry it. Distractions are dangerous for the chosen. The enemy doesn't have to destroy you. He just has to distract you long enough to delay your assignment. He'll use noise, people, false opportunities, and even emotional chaos to keep you disconnected from your divine timeline. But this interruption, this silence, this pause, it's proof that God is reclaiming your timeline. He's pulling you out of delay and into destiny. And that's why you're here. That's why this message found you. You needed confirmation that what you're going through is not failure, it's formation. Heaven is shaping you in secret before it releases you in power. So what do you do now? You respond. You surrender. You stop asking, why is this happening? And start declaring, God, I'm listening. Because when the divine interrupt comes, it requires a divine response. Comment below. I'm listening. Not because the algorithm demands it, but because your spirit needs to confess it. Because heaven responds to obedience. Because your surrender shifts the atmosphere. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is acknowledge that you hear Him. That one sentence can be your turning point. By typing, I'm listening, you're breaking the agreement with distraction. You're silencing the voices of confusion. You're aligning yourself with the voice that truly matters. This is not emotionalism. This is not hype. This is sacred. You are being visited by conviction, a gift few recognize. When heaven interrupts, it's never random. It's always rescue. So, stop explaining it away. Stop pushing it aside. Don't drown it in entertainment. Don't numb it with busyness. This is your moment to shift. The angels are still moving, and they're waiting for your spirit to catch up. Chosen one. Your life is not on pause. It's in transition. The silence is not punishment, it's instruction. The discomfort is not delay, it's delivery. And your response right now matters more than you know. This is not about religion. No. Chosen one. This is deeper than stained glass windows and memorized routines. This is not about tradition. This is not about performance. This is not about outward expressions that hide inward confusion. God didn't call you into a system. He called you into a supernatural encounter. You've been feeling that tug, that strange dissatisfaction with surface-level spirituality. The words sound right, but something feels missing. The routine looks holy, but your spirit still feels dry. That's not rebellion, it's recognition. You were never made to survive off of borrowed faith. You were born for something deeper. You were born for presence, not man's approval, not ceremonial repetition, not empty declarations that never touch heaven. You were designed to walk in the raw, unfiltered, living presence of God. That's why you've been restless. That's why no event, no preacher, no playlist can seem to satisfy that deeper craving in your soul. Because you're not after religion, you're after revelation. You want truth. You want fire. You want power. You want something that doesn't just stir your emotions but ignites your assignment. And you're not crazy for that. You're called. This generation doesn't need more polished sermons. It needs burning ones. Heaven is not raising up entertainers. It's raising up messengers. And that includes you. You were not called to just repeat scriptures. You were called to become them, to carry them, to live them until atmospheres respond and darkness flees. Scripture says in the Gospel of John, chapter 15, verse 5, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. No, religion says, work harder. No, the Spirit says, abide deeper. No, religion says, follow the rules. The Spirit says, follow the wind. Religion tries to impress God with performance. But God was never impressed. He was always looking for relationship. That's what this stirring in you is. Heaven is reminding you of what religion tried to replace: divine intimacy, sacred access, walking with God, not just singing about Him, listening to His voice, not just listening to someone else talk about Him. You were never designed to need a middleman. The veil was torn so you could walk boldly into His presence. And yet, many are still standing at the edges, afraid to go in. But not you. You are being called beyond the curtain, beyond the formulas, beyond the rules, into the holy, wild, and beautiful reality of presence-driven living. The angels aren't moving because of religion. They are moving because the time of awakening has come. They are responding to the cries of the remnant, the ones who don't want performance, who don't want platform, who don't want to play church. No, they want God, just God, nothing less, nothing else. And your hunger qualifies you. Don't let anyone shame you for the questions you've asked. Don't let anyone convince you that wanting more of Him is rebellion. Hunger is not rebellion, it's remembrance. Your spirit remembers Eden. Your spirit remembers what closeness with God felt like before sin, before shame, before systems. And that memory is pulling you back. This isn't about rules. It's about reign. You were called to reign in the Spirit. You were called to walk in the kind of intimacy that causes heaven to move and hell to tremble. You were called to shift cities, awaken families, and dismantle darkness, not through performance, but through presence. The world needs people who don't just quote verses. They host the voice behind them. Religion will try to tame you. Systems will try to limit you. People will try to misunderstand you. But you were not born for the pew. You were born for the throne room. You were not made to mimic others. You were made to walk with the one whose voice shakes mountains and calms storms. And when you walk with him, when you carry his fire, when you embrace the fullness of what religion can't give you, you become dangerous to darkness. You become disruptive to comfort. You become alive. This is why you felt out of place. This is why traditional spaces no longer satisfy your spirit. You are not rejecting God. You are responding to his deeper invitation. Don't settle for singing about the river when you were born to dive in. Don't let safe religion keep you from sacred revelation. Don't let surface-level rituals bury the burning inside of you. Heaven is calling for worshippers in spirit and in truth. And you've been chosen to answer that call, not with a routine, but with a response. Angels are sent on assignment. There is movement in the unseen realm. You may not have seen it with your natural eyes, but your spirit has been sensing it, feeling that strange intensity in the atmosphere. It's not just you. It's not just stress or emotion. It's the activity of heaven breaking into earth. Chosen one. Listen closely. Angels have been released. And not just generally, they've been released around you. This is not poetic language. This is scriptural reality. Angels are real, and right now, they are moving in obedience to the will of the Most High. They don't move for likes. They don't move for crowds. They move for purpose. They move for obedience. And right now, they are circling the chosen, preparing for what's coming next. You are not alone. You never have been. Every moment you thought no one saw you, an angel stood by. Every prayer you whispered in the dark, a messenger was dispatched. You've been protected from things you never even knew existed. There were accidents that didn't happen, connections that were blocked, attacks that didn't reach you. Why? Because angels were on assignment. The Word of God declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 91, verse 11, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." Lo, and now that assignment is intensifying. You may have noticed strange timing, unusual delays, people suddenly leaving, paths suddenly clearing. These are not coincidences, they're confirmations. The angels are making room for your next season. They are going before you to prepare doors no man can shut. But hear this truth with full sobriety. When angels move, the chosen must move too. They are not here to entertain, they're here to execute. Their movement demands your alignment. This is not the time to fall asleep spiritually. This is the time to walk with holy awareness. The angels are not confused about who you are. They recognize your calling even when you question it. They are not waiting on your perfection, they are waiting on your obedience. And this moment right here, this message, these words, this is part of your alignment. You didn't scroll here by mistake. You didn't stumble into this randomly. Heaven brought this to your attention because the Spirit is trying to get your attention. And when God sends angels on assignment, He also sends messages to prepare your response. Do not ignore what you're feeling right now. That stirring, that heat, that knowing. It's not hype. It's not emotionalism. It's divine contact. Chosen one. This is your reminder. You are not forgotten in the chaos of the world. You are surrounded by the army of heaven. You are not walking alone. You are being accompanied, protected, and guided. But even with angelic help, your participation matters. Angels obey God, not feelings. They move in realms of command. So when God releases a word over your life, the angels move to protect it. but you must walk it out. You must stand in it. You must believe it, even when the battle rages. This is why you must keep your spirit sharp. This is why you must stay connected to truth, to fire, to the word that feeds your soul. That's why messages like this are more than just content. They are alignment points. So if this is resonating with you, if your spirit is testifying right now, then stay connected to this prophetic flow, like this message. Not because I said it, but because it's your confirmation. Share this word with someone else who may be in their moment of spiritual slumber. Your obedience might be the wake-up call they've been waiting for. And subscribe so that you don't miss what heaven keeps sending your way. This is a stream of activation, not a single spark. What's happening in your life right now is bigger than you know. The angels don't move without purpose, and you are part of that purpose. You're not being visited, you're being backed. You're not being observed, you're being covered. And when you obey heaven's whisper, the angels make war on your behalf. Some of the things you've been trying to fight in your own strength, they're not even yours to fight. They belong to the Lord. He has dispatched help. You just need to align with it. That means staying in the flow of what's true, what's holy, what's pure, and rejecting every lesser voice that tries to distract you. The angels are moving. They're clearing paths. They're opening doors. They're making space. But your obedience will determine your occupancy. Will you walk where they've gone ahead? Because heaven has already begun. The activity has started. The movement has been triggered, and it's waiting for you to rise. This is not fantasy. This is reality. And your faith is the key that activates the next step. You are chosen. You are covered. You are accompanied. Now, walk like it. The delay is over. Yes, that delay. The delay that left you wondering if you heard God correctly. The delay that made you question your own worth, your own calling, your very identity. The delay that stretched longer than you ever imagined, until hope started to feel like a memory. But hear this clearly. It was not denial, it was divine delay. And now, the divine pause is being lifted. There is a shift occurring in the spirit. The things that were once locked are beginning to move. The prayers you thought were buried are suddenly surfacing again. The visions you tucked away and nearly forgot are now starting to burn brighter. God is signaling that the delay was never to destroy you. It was to develop you. You were never being punished. You were being positioned. While you were asking when, God was shaping your who, because the promise is always real, but it demands a person who's ready to carry it. And now, heaven has marked this moment. The delay is over. It was proclaimed in the first book of Kings, chapter 18, verse 41. Go, eat and drink, for there is the sound of a heavy rain. There's movement in the heavens. And that sound, spiritual rain, is the announcement that harvest is coming. The wait wasn't for nothing. The dry season wasn't wasted. And you are about to see why God had to hold you back for a while. Because to be chosen is to be processed. People want the anointing without the agony. They want the promise without the pruning. But you, chosen one, have walked through the fire. You've been misunderstood. You've been delayed. And still, you've remained. And now, because you did not give up, heaven is opening up. The angels are in motion again. But this time, they're not just guarding you. They're releasing things. Timed appointments. Prophetic alignments. Encounters that activate destiny. Doors that were once sealed are starting to respond to your presence. Not because you forced them open, but because now is the appointed time. You are stepping into divine timing, and timing is everything. In the delay, you questioned your gifts. You second-guessed your value. But God never did. He has always known what He placed inside you. You were simply in hiding for preservation. He covered you when exposure would have destroyed you. He shielded you when you didn't yet have the strength to handle visibility. And now, He is lifting the veil. What was locked is being released. What was buried is being resurrected. What was blocked is now being blessed. But don't miss the responsibility of this moment. When God breaks the delay, He expects movement. This isn't the time to stay frozen in fear. This isn't the time to second-guess every step. The delay taught you what waiting felt like. Now heaven is calling you to step forward like someone who knows they're sent. No more hiding. No more wondering if you're qualified. God is not waiting for you to feel ready. He is waiting for your yes. The delay is over. The season is shifting. And you must not let fear speak louder than your faith. Remember the things that once made you feel unworthy? God's about to use those very places as the evidence of His power. What hurt you will now help you. What broke you will now build others. What delayed you will now become the door for others walking behind you. Chosen one. This is legacy territory now. You are not just walking for yourself. Every obedient step you take now becomes a path for the ones coming after you. Every yes you give, God becomes a key for someone else's breakthrough. That's why the delay had to end now, because the time is critical. Look at the world around you. The spiritual landscape is shifting rapidly. People are lost, bound, confused. But you, marked and refined through the delay, carry the answer. Not because of who you are in your flesh, but because of who you became in the delay. You are not who you used to be. You don't cry like you used to cry. You don't break like you used to break. You are stronger, quieta in spirit, sharper in discernment, and more dangerous to darkness. Heaven didn't forget you. Heaven formed you. And now you are ready. You're not perfect, but you're prepared. You're not flawless, but you're focused. You may still feel nervous, but you're anointed. So let this be your confirmation. The delay has been broken. The blockage is lifting. The atmosphere is shifting. The angels are moving. And now, so must you. If you receive this word in your spirit, speak back to heaven by typing this prophetic number in the comments. 444. My delay is over. You're not saying it for me. You're declaring it into the spirit realm. You're making an announcement not just to earth, but to angels and demons alike, that you recognize the shift, that you accept the call, that you're moving in obedience. Chosen one. The time is now. Heaven has been watching. Every tear you cried when no one else was listening, heaven saw it. Every night you laid awake, wrestling thoughts too heavy to speak, heaven heard it. Every moment you questioned your worth, your purpose, your place in this world, heaven never looked away. You were never invisible, not to the one who called you. People may have overlooked you. Some even abandoned you. They judged you by your current situation, not knowing the weight of your assignment. But heaven knew. Heaven has been tracking your every step, not with scrutiny, but with tenderness, not with impatience, but with deep compassion. God doesn't just see you. He understands you. This is why you survived what others didn't. This is why you endured things that crushed other people. It wasn't because you were stronger, it was because you were covered. You've been preserved in secret by a hand greater than your understanding. There were moments you thought you were forsaken, but the truth is, you were being hidden. You were hidden in grief, hidden in silence, hidden behind doors that wouldn't open. But all of that was holy. You weren't forgotten. You were protected. Because what's on your life is too precious to be thrown to the wolves prematurely. Heaven doesn't lose track of those it marks. There were times you wondered why nothing made sense, why you kept walking in circles, why certain relationships didn't last, why doors closed before you could walk through them, why people you thought would always be there suddenly disappeared. But now you're beginning to understand. It wasn't personal, it was providential. You were never meant to be shaped by their opinion of you. You were meant to be shaped by His hand upon you. And shaping often requires separation. The longer you stay in the presence of God, the more clearly you begin to see. Everything was necessary. Every heartbreak refined your compassion. Every betrayal sharpened your discernment. Every loss deepened your dependence. Every dry season cultivated your hunger. And heaven has been watching the entire time, not waiting to punish you for your weakness, but waiting to promote you from your faithfulness. God doesn't measure like men do. While others celebrate platforms, heaven honors persistence. While the world crowns the visible, heaven anoints the faithful. You've been faithful in obscurity. You've shown up when no one clapped. You've kept worshiping when the answers didn't come. You've kept believing when your heart was breaking. And that, chosen one, has not gone unnoticed. We read in the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." 1-2. There is a harvest assigned to your perseverance, and heaven has already released it in the Spirit. You've been standing at the edge of almost for a long time. Almost free, almost healed, almost launched, almost whole, almost seen. But God is not the God of almost. He is the God of completion. And what He started in you, He will finish. Heaven doesn't invest in temporary. When God marks you, He marks you for eternity. So stop believing the lie that your efforts were wasted. Stop believing the silence meant absence. Stop believing that your obedience didn't matter. Everything counted. Every tear was caught. Every prayer was recorded. Every time you resisted the urge to give up, it echoed in heaven. And now, something is changing. Not because you demanded it, but because heaven has decided it's time. The angels have seen your labor. They've witnessed your testing. And now, they are moving in response to divine instruction, to open what has long been closed, and to remind you that you were never unseen. God has not forgotten your name. In fact, your name has been whispered in rooms you haven't entered yet. Your face is recognized in realms your feet haven't touched yet. Your voice is known in atmospheres you've yet to step into. Because heaven knows the ones who have endured in silence, the ones who kept praying with a shattered heart, the ones who kept sowing with empty hands, the ones who kept hoping when logic said quit. That's who you are. You are not here by luck. You are not surviving by accident. You are where you are alive, anointed, and awakening because heaven has been watching over you with holy precision. And no demon, delay, or disappointment can cancel what heaven has preserved. You've been faithful when it wasn't easy. You've been consistent when it wasn't celebrated. And now, The one who saw you in the secret place is about to reward you openly. Chosen one. Don't doubt your worth. Heaven never did. Satan marked you for destruction. From the very beginning, the enemy knew there was something different about you. He saw the fingerprints of God resting on your soul. He recognized the divine spark within you before you even understood it yourself. And so he plotted. He set traps. He stirred storms. Not because you were weak, but because you were dangerous. You've always felt like a target. That's because you are one. Not because you did anything wrong. Not because you failed. Not because you were cursed. But because you carry something inside of you that terrifies the kingdom of darkness. Satan doesn't waste his time on those who are neutral. He goes after the ones who are marked to shift generations. He wars against the ones who carry breakthrough in their DNA. He attacks the ones chosen to tear down strongholds and birth movements. You were not attacked because you were weak. You were attacked because you were chosen. Before you could walk, there was resistance. Before you could speak, there was warfare. You've been under pressure your entire life. And maybe you never understood why until now. The enemy recognized what heaven planted inside of you, and he tried everything. He tried to kill your confidence. He tried to corrupt your identity. He tried to destroy your family, your mind, your joy. He sent betrayal. He sent heartbreak. He sent confusion. He sent delay after delay. His goal was simple: to stop you from ever discovering who you really are. But he failed. Because here you are, still breathing, still believing, still pressing forward. That alone is proof of God's hand on your life. The enemy sent destruction, but heaven blocked it over and over again. There were accidents that didn't happen, relationships that didn't last, doors that didn't open. You thought they were setbacks, but in reality, they were shielding. You thought you were being punished, but you were being protected. The enemy had plans, but God always had a greater one. There were moments you almost gave in. You almost snapped. You almost walked away from your purpose. But even when you were slipping, something unseen kept you standing. That something was the covenant God made with your destiny. Satan marked you, but God sealed you. The difference between a mark and a seal is this: a mark is visible, but a seal is eternal. The enemy could touch your circumstances, but he could not touch your calling. He could shake your surroundings, but he could not erase your assignment. Because what God speaks over you, no demon can revoke. It was written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 54, verse 17, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you." Nah, the weapons were formed. Yes, the warfare was real, but they did not prosper. That is your testimony. You were struck, but not destroyed. Pressed, but not crushed. Targeted, but still standing. The weapons were formed. Yes, the warfare was real, but they did not prosper. That is your testimony. You were struck, but not destroyed. Pressed, but not crushed. Targeted, but still standing. Broken in moments, but never beyond repair. Scared, but not surrendered. Weary, but unwilling to quit. And through it all, something sacred in you refused to die. Your resilience is not your own strength. It is the evidence of angelic intervention. You were carried. You were covered. You were rescued before you even knew you needed rescuing. And now, the enemy is terrified, because you've survived the very thing he swore would silence you. He doesn't fear your past, he fears your awakening. He fears that you're beginning to realize the authority you carry. He fears that you're getting up again, this time with revelation in your mouth and fire in your bones. You are not the same person who entered the wilderness. You've been refined by fire. You've been trained through tears. You've been equipped in silence. And now, you're stepping into the fullness of who you really are. The enemy can't stop that. He delayed you, but he didn't disqualify you. He distracted you, but he didn't destroy you. And every plot he formed will now become the stage for your public restoration. The very area he attacked the most will become the area God uses the most. Your story isn't over, it's just entering its most powerful chapter. And you're no longer just surviving, you're about to start walking in dominion. Not by your strength, but by the one who preserved you when the enemy tried to erase you. Chosen one, you've been through the fire, but you've come out with gold in your hands. And every plan Satan had for your destruction, God is now flipping for your destiny. You can't go back now. Not after everything you've survived. Not after the battles you've won in silence. Not after the progress your soul has made in the dark. You are too far in to turn around now. The bridge has been burned, not by men, but by heaven itself. Going back would cost too much. Going back would silence too much. Going back would bury what's just starting to awaken in you. You've felt the pull to return to what's comfortable, to the old patterns, the familiar habits. You've even considered it. In your weak moments, the old life seemed easier, less warfare, fewer expectations, more room to hide. But chosen one, you don't fit there anymore. You've outgrown that version of yourself. You can pretend to shrink, but your spirit will rebel. That version of you was only for the wilderness. You needed that shell when you didn't yet know who you were. But now you've seen too much. You've encountered too much. You've tasted the call of destiny, and once you've tasted it, nothing else satisfies. Going back would be rebellion, and your spirit knows it. This is why the old sins don't feel the same anymore. This is why the old rooms feel spiritually claustrophobic. This is why the old friendships keep fading, even without conflict. It's not sabotage, it's separation. It's heaven drawing a line between where you've been and where you must go next. Don't mourn what God has moved. When he begins to separate you, it can feel like abandonment, but in truth, it's promotion. You're being called out of the crowd and into consecration. You're being pulled out of imitation and into identity. This is holy ground now, and you cannot carry old garments into this new territory. The apostle reminds us in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 9, verse 62, "No one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God." There it is, clear and unshaken. Looking back is not just nostalgia, it's disqualification. You've come too far to look over your shoulder. You've cried too many tears to turn around. You've endured too much fire to settle for ashes again. And the enemy knows it. That's why he keeps whispering reminders of who you used to be. He wants to drag you back into a prison God already opened. He's hoping you'll voluntarily walk into bondage again, because he knows he can't drag you there. You're not bound. You're being baited. And bait only works when you're hungry. That's why the enemy sends distractions when you're weary, false comforts when you're vulnerable, counterfeit peace when you're tired of fighting. But remember this, chosen one. Nothing back there is worth what's ahead. You have angels clearing the path before you. You have grace carrying you forward. You have fire being reignited in your soul. You have authority being restored. You have the oil of endurance flowing through you. Why go back to empty when you've been promised overflow? Why go back to silence when you've found your voice? Why go back to guilt when you're walking in grace? The pressure you're feeling now, that's not failure. That's birth. The warfare you feel now, that's not punishment. That's transition. The uncertainty you're facing now, that's not confusion. That's holy tension pulling you forward. You're at the edge of a divine upgrade. You're standing in the doorway of something sacred. You're closer than you've ever been to stepping fully into who God created you to be. So don't let your feet freeze. Don't let fear speak louder than faith. Don't let weariness make your decisions. And don't you dare forfeit your crown for comfort. You didn't endure all this just to go back to who you were. Comment below, "I won't go back." And say it out loud. Write it in stone. Let every demon that's been stalking you hear it. Let every lie that's been taunting you know it lost. Because this time, you're not turning around. You're not backing down. You're not bending to the weight. You're pressing forward with fire in your bones and heaven on your side. The old cycle ends here. The old story ends here. The old chains fall off right now. God didn't bring you this far to leave you in limbo. You are stepping into the promise. You are crossing the threshold. You are breaking into what the delay tried to bury. And what's ahead is worth everything. The warfare around your life was proof. The constant tension. The invisible battles. The heavy mornings where getting out of bed felt like warfare. You've wondered why it never let up. You've asked, "Why me?" more times than you can count. But what if the question was never why, but what for? What if all the pressure wasn't punishment, but prophecy, chosen one? Hear this. The warfare you faced didn't happen because you were weak. It happened because you were worthy. The level of attack always reveals the level of assignment. You weren't targeted because you were broken. You were targeted because you're a breaker of cycles, a breaker of chains, a breaker of generational bondage. You carry something that hell couldn't ignore, even before you fully knew who you were. The enemy knew. That's why it started early. That's why it felt personal. That's why the attacks came in waves, relentless and strategic. Your warfare wasn't random. It was reconnaissance. Hell studied your line, your lineage, your legacy. And when the darkness saw what you were born to carry, it launched the full force of resistance. But here's the part hell didn't plan for. You're still standing, still breathing, still believing. You may be bruised, but you're not broken. You may be tired, but you're not done. You may have questions, but you haven't lost your faith. That's proof. The Word of God declares in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 8, "We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair." The pressure didn't destroy you. It revealed you. You weren't meant to walk through life unnoticed. The hand of God on you made you a target, and now the fire you went through is becoming your testimony. You don't just have survival stories, you carry spiritual evidence. You've been forged in silence, and the silence was sacred. While others saw the exterior, God was forming you in secret. The delays, the losses, the emotional weight, it wasn't random. It was all part of your training. Because what's coming requires more than charisma. It requires consecration. It requires depth. It requires fire-tested faith. And now that the testing has refined you, the release is near. But you must not despise the fire. Don't regret the season of affliction. It was in those moments where your roots went deep, when the applause faded and the noise stopped. You learned how to hear God again. You learned how to trust Him when nothing made sense. You learned how to stand even when no one else was clapping. You learned how to pray through clenched teeth and tired hands. And that's what made you dangerous. The enemy threw everything he had at you, and you outlasted it. That means the worst is behind you. The fact that you're still here means something in you. Refuse to die. That's why you can't be casual about what you carry. You didn't come through this fire just to fit in. You came through because heaven has need of you. There's a specific weight of glory that your life is now qualified to carry, not because you're perfect, but because you're purified. Don't you dare downplay your process. Don't you dare act like this was normal. What you went through would have crushed most, but it crowned you. Not with pride, but with perspective. Now you walk differently. Now you speak with fire. Now you sense things before others do. You are no longer just a survivor. You are a vessel, a weapon in the hand of the Lord. And the angels are watching you with recognition now. You've passed through the fire. You've passed through the wilderness. You've passed through the crushing. And now, heaven is activating what was buried beneath the pain. Your obedience under pressure became worship. Your praise in the fire became prophecy. Your persistence became intercession for the next generation. And now you carry authority. So don't go silent. Don't go private. Don't retreat back into hiding. There are lives waiting on the sound of your obedience. And if this word resonates in your spirit, if you know this is your confirmation, then stay connected to the voice that's been guiding you. Like this message, not for hype, but for honor. Share it with someone whose warfare has been their wilderness. Let it be the whisper that reminds them they are not alone. Subscribe, because these words are not content, they are clarion calls for the remnant. And the remnant must be ready. The warfare you went through was never for nothing. It was heaven's way of proving to hell that you were born for this. The shaking only exposed what cannot be shaken. And what cannot be shaken is you. You are needed in this hour. Not later. Not someday. Not once everything is perfect. Now, heaven has sounded an alarm. And your name is among those called to respond. The world isn't just experiencing chaos, it's groaning. Groaning for answers. Groaning for truth. Groaning for light to pierce the darkness. And you, chosen one, are part of heaven's answer. This isn't flattery. This isn't inflated language to stir your emotions. This is divine reality. Your obedience in this season will break chains you can't even see yet. Your presence in the right place, at the right time, will unlock someone else's freedom. You don't have to be famous to be effective. You don't have to be perfect to be powerful. What God placed inside of you is timed for right now. He didn't give you insight, passion, or discernment so you could sit still. He gave it to you because something around you needs activation. There are dry bones near you, people asleep to their call. Families buried under generational bondage. Places weighed down by spiritual silence, and your voice has the power to stir them. You carry weight, not just emotional depth, but spiritual substance. You've walked through too much, suffered, too deeply, been tested too thoroughly to now fade into the background. The hour is urgent. The fields are ready. The harvest is near. But heaven isn't sending celebrities. Heaven is sending consecrated ones, the quiet ones, the misunderstood ones, the rejected ones, the ones forged in the fire while no one was watching. The ones like you, we find in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 19. For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. And the world is not waiting for more influences. It's waiting for sons and daughters to arise. It's waiting for the ones who carry light to walk into darkness without fear. It's waiting for the ones who understand who they are, not just in title, but in spiritual authority. You are not optional to God's plan. You are central to it. This is why the enemy fought so hard to keep you quiet. This is why hell tried to lock your voice behind insecurity, trauma, or shame. Because the moment you understand that your obedience has weight, the realm of darkness loses ground. Every yes you give, God becomes a weapon. Every act of obedience becomes a strike against oppression. Every prayer becomes a seed planted in someone else's deliverance. You are not random. You are strategic. Heaven has placed you in this generation for a reason. There's someone in your family who will come to Jesus not because of a sermon, but because of your example. There's someone at your workplace watching you, not your perfection, but your endurance. There's someone on the verge of collapse whose breakthrough is tied to your intercession, and this is why you can't stay silent. This is why you can't keep delaying. This is why you can't keep believing the lie that you don't matter. You matter deeply, not because of what you've built, but because of what you've been through. The scars you carry are not disqualifiers, they're qualifiers. They're proof that you know what pain feels like, and that makes your comfort authentic. They're proof that you've walked through fire, and that makes your wisdom weighty. The world doesn't need more polished masks. It needs healed warriors, and that's what you are. Not perfect, but healed enough to help others. So even when you feel small, remember, you carry something massive. Even when you feel unworthy, remember, your worth was established long before you could perform. Even when you feel like quitting, remember, heaven never changed its mind about you. You are needed in this hour, not just for what you can do, but for who you are. Your life, when surrendered, becomes a vessel for glory. Your weakness, when offered, becomes a display of God's power. Your obedience, when consistent, becomes the pathway others will walk on to find freedom. Chosen one. The angels are still moving. Heaven is still orchestrating. But God isn't looking for performers. He's looking for partners. He's looking for those who say yes, even with shaking hands. He's looking for the surrendered, not the celebrated. That's why he's looking at you. Because while others crave platforms, you've craved presence. While others sought validation, you sought truth. While others settled for shallow waters, you kept asking for the deep. And now, the hour has come. You are needed. Your voice is needed. Your testimony is needed. Your prayers are needed. Your presence is needed. And heaven is ready to back you. Respond with obedience, not delay. This is the critical moment. The moment where hesitation can cost more than you realize. You've heard the call. You've felt the weight. You've sensed the shift in your atmosphere. You know deep in your spirit that this isn't just another emotional spark. This is divine summons. And now, Heaven is watching to see your response. Delay might seem harmless, but in the spiritual realm, delay is dangerous. Disobedience doesn't always wear rebellion. It often wears procrastination. The enemy doesn't always try to make you deny your calling. Sometimes, he just wants you to postpone it until it loses power. You keep saying, "I'll move when I'm ready." But chosen one, heaven is not waiting on your readiness, it's waiting on your obedience. The time for second guessing has ended. The window is open. The angels are moving. The Spirit is stirring. And your delayed yes is starting to echo as resistance in the realm of the Spirit. This moment demands movement. Heaven isn't waiting for your comfort. God is not watching for your perfection. He's looking for a heart that will respond, a soul that will say, "Yes, even if I don't have all the answers." Because obedience is the language of trust. And trust is what activates miracles. You've asked God to show up. Now He's asking you to step up. As the prophet wrote in the scroll of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, "For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay." The appointed time is now. The lingering season is breaking. And yet, the activation is tied to your obedience. There are things God has already released in heaven: strategies, resources, connections, provision, but they have not landed in your life because the vehicle of obedience has not been fully engaged. It's not about earning, it's about aligning. The path was always there, but heaven waits for movement. The angels move when they hear the sound of surrendered steps. When they see obedience, they respond with acceleration. So the question becomes, what are you waiting for? You're waiting for clarity, but God often gives clarity after the first step, not before. You're waiting for strength, but strength is given to the ones who move, not the ones who sit. You're waiting for peace, but peace comes in the midst of movement, not before it. The delay in your obedience is creating gaps the enemy is eager to fill. And while grace covers, delayed obedience still costs. Heaven's movement is precise. Its timing is intentional, and its plans require willing vessels who respond when called, not just when it's convenient. Think of Jonah. Think of Saul. Think of the countless names in Scripture who were invited into greatness, but their delayed obedience made the journey longer, harder, and more painful than it had to be. This is not about fear, it's about faithfulness. God doesn't need your expertise. He needs your surrender. He's not asking for your resume. He's asking for your response. The one word that breaks chains and opens realms is this: yes. Yes. Even if I'm scared. Yes. Even if I don't feel ready. Yes. Even if I have questions. Yes. Because He's trustworthy. Even when I'm not. You may not see the full staircase, but obedience is stepping onto the first step, knowing the next one will appear when it's time. That's faith. And faith, when combined with obedience, is unstoppable. You're not just saying yes for you. Your obedience will ripple into generations. It will open doors for others. It will silence curses, heal wounds, and release blessings you haven't even imagined yet. Don't let your assignment expire in delay. Don't wait until the moment passes. Don't wait until the weight lifts. That burden you feel, it's not there to crush you, It's there to call you. It's there to mark you. It's there to remind you that you are not ordinary. You are chosen, and chosen ones must respond quickly when the trumpet sounds. So if your spirit is stirring, act now. If your heart is burning, answer now. If your soul is trembling, respond now. Declare it in faith. Activate it in the Spirit. Let your fingers type what your heart is crying. Type 333, I will obey. Let that number ring in the realm of heaven as your confirmation. Let it stand as a record that in this moment, you didn't delay. You didn't hesitate. You responded. The angels are waiting. The moment is holy. Your obedience is everything. Your name is echoing in heaven. You may feel small. You may feel overlooked. You may have walked through long seasons of silence, carrying burdens no one saw. But in the courts of heaven, your name is not only known, it is spoken. You are not invisible to God. You are not lost in the crowd. You are heard, known, and remembered. There are moments in the spiritual realm when God speaks a name and angels respond. He doesn't speak like men do. He speaks with authority, with fire, with eternal intention. And when he calls your name, he doesn't call it based on your past. He calls it according to your purpose. Right now, your name is being whispered in places you've never walked. You are being discussed in realms you cannot see. Not in gossip, but in glory. Not in condemnation, but in commissioning. Heaven is speaking about you, not your reputation, but your destiny. The spiritual world doesn't operate on talent. It moves by obedience. And the sound of your yielded heart is causing angelic motion. There are angels who respond not to your words, but to the sound of surrender. When your spirit aligns with heaven's will, your name becomes a signal in the unseen. That's when things begin to shift. That's when divine reinforcements begin to move. The apostle reminds us in his first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 2, verse 9, No eye has seen, no ear has heard, and no mind has imagined what God has prepared for those who love him. There is more being arranged for you than you could ever imagine. While you worry about daily details, heaven is orchestrating generational impact. While you battle in prayer for one breakthrough, God is aligning you for legacy. This is why your name matters so much in the Spirit. Because names in the kingdom are not labels, they are assignments. Every chosen one is marked with divine purpose, and that purpose sends ripples into eternity. It's not about whether the world knows you. It's about whether heaven recognizes you. You are not unknown in the realm that matters most. The angels don't move based on followers. They move based on faith. They respond to divine instruction. And when God calls a name, those under heaven's command go into motion. Some to protect, some to release, some to clear paths, some to war on your behalf. That means every time you obey, heaven hears. Every time you intercede, heaven responds. Every time you say yes in secret, angels are released in silence. There are battles you never had to fight because your name carried weight in the heavenlies. There are situations that shifted in your favor, not because of luck, but because of alignment. You didn't see the angel standing between you and that crash. You didn't hear the Spirit rerouting you from that trap. But it happened, and it wasn't by accident. It was divine response. This is why you must not let shame silence your name. The enemy's tactic has always been identity theft. If he can't stop heaven from calling your name, he'll try to stop you from believing it matters. He'll remind you of what you've done. He'll shout your failures. He'll weaponize your past. But none of that disqualifies what heaven has already declared. Heaven does not echo the voice of guilt. Heaven echoes the voice of God. And what he speaks is final. When he calls you chosen, no mistake can undo it. When he says anointed, no failure can cancel it. When he marks you worthy, no rejection can override it. Your name carries the weight of divine intent. It is not just who you are, it is why you are. You don't need to beg God to remember you. He never forgot. You don't need to earn your way into his attention. You already have it. You don't need to try to force his hand. His hand has been on your life since before your first breath. You've been walking through seasons you didn't choose, but they were preparing you for moments heaven already scheduled. And now, your name is echoing again. In this very hour, there are instructions being released, assignments being handed down, and your name is attached to one of them. That's why the stirring, that's why the dreams, that's why the pressure, that's why the silence has broken. Heaven has reactivated your name for this season. The angels are not confused. The enemy is nervous. And your spirit is awakening, not just to the sound of your name, but to the weight of it. Carry it well. Chosen one, because you are no longer hidden. You are being heard. This is a prophetic activation. You're not reading this by accident. You didn't arrive at this moment by curiosity or coincidence. This is a prophetic moment, an unlocking in time where your spirit is being activated to move beyond where you've been. It is no longer enough to be aware of your calling. Now, you must walk in it. You were not just chosen to believe. You were chosen to build. You weren't just marked to feel different. You were marked to function differently. You weren't called just to receive. You were called to release. What's stirring in you right now isn't emotion, it's fire. And fire is always followed by movement. God is calling you out of passivity and into position, out of potential and into purpose, out of concept and into commission. You've received the word, you've endured the process, you've weathered the warfare. Now it's time to activate what's been deposited in you. Because what you carry isn't casual, it's costly. And heaven is calling for a return on what it has invested in you. Activation means movement, and movement means risk. You won't feel ready. You may not feel worthy. You may even still be healing. But your obedience activates what your feelings can't. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, Verse 3, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. And the power of this hour is not in perfection, it's in commitment. Heaven doesn't need your performance. It needs your surrendered yes. Activation isn't loud. It's not always visible. It may not involve a stage or a crowd. Sometimes it looks like deciding to break the cycle in your family. Sometimes it looks like finally writing what God told you to write, or praying boldly when no one is watching, or saying yes when everything in you still feels uncertain. Obedience in private often activates miracles in public. There's something about this moment that's stirring your soul in a way you can't explain. That's not because of the words, it's because of the timing. You're standing in a divine intersection between what you've been through and what you're about to walk into. Activation begins with acknowledgement. You don't need a title to walk in power. You don't need recognition to move in truth. You don't need applause to be effective. You need only one thing: alignment. When your heart aligns with heaven's timing, something shifts. There are dormant gifts in you that are about to be awakened. Not new gifts, buried ones. Gifts that were suppressed by fear. Gifts that were silenced by rejection. Gifts that were mocked, misunderstood, or ignored. But heaven didn't forget. And now those gifts are rising to the surface, not to serve your ego, but to fulfill your assignment. You've asked for confirmation. This is it. This is your green light. This is your go. This is the moment where heaven breathes on what you've been carrying in silence. Not because you're finally worthy, but because you're finally willing. Activation happens when willingness outruns insecurity. The enemy will always whisper that you're not ready. He'll remind you of your history, your mistakes, your inconsistencies. But prophetic activation isn't based on your record, it's based on God's reign. And His word is final. You were never called to do it alone. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead now lives in you. That means power is already inside you. The instructions have already been written. The atmosphere is already being cleared. Now it's your turn to move. And with every obedient step you take, heaven sends reinforcement. With every act of faith, the angels go ahead. With every yes, the way is made. You won't always see it immediately, but activation always triggers motion in the unseen realm. This is why hell has tried to paralyze you, because the moment you move, everything shifts. People connected to your destiny begin to find you. Resources begin to locate you. Hidden strategies begin to surface. And the oil that was always inside of you begins to flow freely. But none of it happens without your yes. So count the cost and say, yes anyway. Feel the fear and say yes anyway. Remember the pain and say yes anyway. You're not activating a platform. You're activating your purpose. And the ones assigned to your voice are waiting. The doors assigned to your name are opening. The weight you've carried in silence is becoming a weapon in the spirit. You are not just called, you are activated. Walk in it now. Every excuse must die now. You've told yourself for years that you're not ready, that the timing isn't right, that once you're more stable, more qualified, more supported, then you'll move. You've built entire walls of delay around your destiny, brick by brick, excuse by excuse. But heaven is tearing them down now. There is no more time to negotiate with your calling. There is no more room to justify hesitation. The days of spiritual procrastination must end. Chosen one, because the clock in the spirit is accelerating, and heaven cannot wait for fear to finish its argument. God has been patient, but purpose is now demanding your participation. You don't need another sign. You don't need another confirmation. You don't need another one more month. You need movement. You need obedience. You need the kind of resolve that says, even if I'm afraid, I will not stay where I've been. This is the hour where excuses must die, so destiny can live. You weren't chosen to sit in the shadows of your own potential. You weren't anointed just to watch others walk in boldness, while you hide behind trauma and comparison. You were chosen to rise. You were set apart to speak. You were called to disrupt the darkness, not negotiate with it. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah in chapter 1, verses 6 through 7. Alas, Zova ein Lord. I said, I do not know how to speak. I am too young. But the Lord said, do not say. I am too young. You must go and speak what I command. 1. God is not impressed by our excuses. He's not intimidated by our weaknesses. He's not hindered by our background. He's simply waiting for our obedience. Because he knows once you truly move in agreement, no demon in hell can stop what follows. That fear you feel, it's not proof that you're unqualified, it's proof that you're human. But you weren't chosen based on your fear. You were chosen based on your fire. And your fire is still burning. You've tried to ignore it. You've tried to suppress it. You've told yourself you're not worthy of the weight you feel. But the fire won't die, because it wasn't planted by man. It was placed in you by God Himself. And the fire of God will not be smothered by excuses, it will consume them. Your voice matters. Your obedience matters. Your presence in the room changes atmospheres. And you don't even realize it yet. You carry what this generation is starving for: authenticity, power, and holy truth. You can no longer afford to water yourself down just to remain comfortable. You can no longer shrink to fit into systems that God is calling you to transform. You can no longer delay when heaven has already declared, go. Oh, this is the time to speak, to write, to lead, to pray, to release. This is the time to say what you've been afraid to say. This is the time to become who God saw when He called you, chosen. If this word is confirming what your spirit has been wrestling with, don't brush it off. Don't say, maybe later. Don't shelf it until it's more convenient. Let your obedience begin now. Type in the comments, I choose my crown. I'm not to be seen, but to seal the decision. Let heaven see it. Let hell see it. Let the algorithm bow to it. Because this isn't a moment of inspiration, it's a moment of transformation. When you write it, you're laying down the excuses and picking up the weight of your calling. You're choosing royalty over fear. You're choosing obedience over delay. You're choosing responsibility over comfort. You're choosing legacy over laziness. Let the atmosphere around you hear your decision. Let the heavens record it. And if you haven't yet subscribed now, not to a channel, but to a flow. This isn't about a voice online, it's about a divine frequency. If you've felt something breaking open as you've read, stay connected, because the flow of oil doesn't stop after one word. It builds. Like this message, if something in you is shifting, share this word if you know someone stuck in excuses, waiting to be activated. The same fire that's awakening in you could be the spark they've been praying for. This is not the season for isolation. It's the season for mobilization. The excuses are loud, but the call is louder. You are being summoned into a place of boldness you've never walked in before. Not because you're trying to be great, but because you were born to be faithful. And faithful ones don't flinch when God calls. Faithful ones don't make excuses when angels are moving. Faithful ones rise when everything inside them says, sit down. Chosen one. No more waiting. No more stalling. No more silencing yourself. You've already been called. You've already been equipped. You've already been covered. Now, choose your crown. Crowns are being handed out. In the unseen realm, there is a moment of divine recognition unfolding. This isn't about titles or applause. This isn't about status or spotlight. This is about authority, identity, inheritance. And in this moment, crowns are being placed upon the heads of the faithful, not the perfect, not the flawless, but the faithful. those who endured when others gave up, those who kept praying when their voice trembled, those who stayed in the fire and let it refine them instead of running away, those who were mocked, overlooked, underestimated, and still chose holiness over comfort. Crowns are not for the ones who merely watched the battle. Crowns are for the ones who bled in it. You didn't realize it at the time, but every time you chose obedience over ease, heaven took notice. Every moment you resisted compromise, heaven counted it. Every day you carried the weight of purpose without affirmation. God marked it. Nothing went unseen. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was ignored. We are reminded through the writings of David in the book of Psalms, chapter 103, verse 4. Who redeems your life from the pit and crowns you with love and compassion. This crown is not made of gold. It's not the kind you place in a trophy case. This crown is spiritual. It's woven from honor, forged through suffering, and sealed by obedience. And it rests not on the proud, but on the humble, not on the loud, but on the loyal. You've walked through seasons where you felt stripped of everything: your confidence, your identity, your voice. And yet, in the stripping, something holy was being prepared. Now, the mantle of heaven is descending again, and crowns are finding heads that are ready to carry the weight. There are those who were anointed in secret, and now the time has come for revealing. God is exalting the ones who chose private surrender over public applause, the ones who turned down platforms to stay hidden in the presence, the ones who learned to lead their own soul before they ever led another person. Because before God places a crown, He checks the foundation beneath it. He checks your motives, your posture, your endurance. He looks not at your following, but at your faithfulness. And that's why this crown is not a reward, it's a responsibility. It means you're stepping into divine assignments that carry weight, that impact lives, that shift legacies. This crown is heaven's way of saying, now, you're ready to carry what I've hidden in you all along. No, don't expect the world to understand. Crowns are invisible to those who haven't walked through the crushing. They'll still remember who you were. They may still label you by your past. But heaven doesn't crown based on reputation. It crowns based on refinement. You've been refined. You've been crushed. You've been pressed. And now, you are ready. The crown is a sign that the testing didn't break you, it qualified you. That the warfare didn't take you out, it trained you. That the delay didn't destroy your destiny, it deepened your roots. And now God is saying, you can carry more. More revelation, more responsibility, more authority, more fire. You may still feel like the same person, but in the spirit, you've shifted, you've matured, you've crossed a threshold, you've been trusted. That's why the weight feels different now. It's not the weight of shame, it's the weight of glory. There's a difference. Shame pulls you down. Glory pulls you deeper into purpose. It sobers you. It humbles you. It breaks every illusion of self-importance and makes room for holy dependence. And the crown doesn't just rest on your head, it marks your life. From this point forward, you will sense a new level of accountability in the spirit. You will feel a deeper pull to consecration. You will notice how heaven responds differently to your prayers. Because heaven now recognizes you as entrusted. You've been entrusted with oil, entrusted with wisdom, entrusted with responsibility, entrusted with influence. Not influence that promotes you, but influence that glorifies Him. Chosen one. The crown you carry is not for decoration, it's for demonstration. You are being called to demonstrate what it looks like to walk in truth. Fire, love, and uncompromised obedience, not for attention, but for impact. And even if no one sees it, heaven does. You are crowned. You are commissioned. You are called. Now walk like it. This is your final confirmation. There is nothing else you need to wait for. No further signs. No more perfect moments. Heaven has spoken. The angels have moved. And now, chosen one. The responsibility is in your hands. What began as a stirring has become a summons, and what you feel now is not just inspiration, it is instruction. This is a divine intersection, one of those rare points in time where eternity brushes up against your reality, and you are given a choice to remain where you've been or to step into where you were always meant to go. No one can make that decision for you. Not a pastor, not a prophet, not a parent. No voice but yours will activate the next step, because your obedience is the only key that unlocks the door ahead. You've been given every confirmation, every whisper, every weight, and now heaven has placed the mantle squarely on your shoulders. You are not being forced. You are being invited. This is the moment where the ones who are merely called step aside and the chosen step forward. The ones who aren't afraid to carry the weight. The ones who have wrestled with God in secret. The ones who know what it feels like to walk through fire and still lift up holy hands. Because you don't get to this moment through performance. You get here through pressing. You pressed when it felt pointless. You prayed when it felt like nothing changed. You stood when your knees shook. You worshipped when it made no sense. You chose holiness when compromise would have been easier. And heaven has not forgotten. The ancient words recorded in the letter to the Romans, chapter 11, verse 29, still echo today. For the gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable. God hasn't changed His mind. Not once. Not after your failures. Not after your wandering. Not even after your silence. He knew what He was doing when He chose you. And He has not withdrawn the assignment on your life. But time is no longer something to waste. The urgency in your spirit is not anxiety, it's acceleration. You are not feeling pressure, you are feeling pull. The kingdom is pulling on your name. Creation is groaning for your alignment, and the heavens are waiting for you to walk in what has already been spoken over you. This isn't the moment to look backward. There is nothing behind you worth returning to. This is not the moment to get distracted. You can't afford to be seduced by comfort when you were called to carry consecration. The distractions were always a strategy to delay your destiny. But now, the distractions are being cleared. The veils are being lifted. The excuses are being exposed. And God is bringing you face to face with who you really are and who you must become. There is no neutral ground for the chosen. Either you rise or you resist. Either you obey or you delay. Either you step into fire or stay bound by fear. You know too much to pretend you don't. You've heard too clearly to act like you're unsure. You've seen too much to return to blindness. You are now accountable for what has been revealed to you. You were not awakened just to feel inspired. You were awakened to move, to shift, to lead, to build, to intercede, to war, to worship. You were awakened to carry the weight of glory. And this is your moment. The angels are still moving, but they are not waiting forever. Heaven is patient, but it does not procrastinate. The doors you've prayed for are open, but they won't remain open indefinitely. There is a divine urgency surrounding your name. This is not fear, it's faith in motion. And faith demands response. Not just emotional agreement, but spiritual movement. The kind of movement that alters how you live, how you speak, how you show up, how you surrender. The kind of movement that says, I know who I am, and I will no longer hide. End quote. This is your final confirmation. Chosen one. The line is drawn. The time is now. Your hesitation must die. Your doubt must bow. Your fear must flee. You are not waiting for breakthrough. Breakthrough has been waiting for you. Step in. Speak up. Stand tall. Not because you feel ready, but because you've been marked ready by the hand of God. And as the heavens take record of your response, the Spirit whispers once more, this is the one. This is my chosen one. The one I've preserved, protected, and prepared. The one who will carry my glory into the dark places. The one I trust to obey me when it counts. The one who will not shrink back. That chosen one. You have heard the call. Now, become it. If you've made it this far, chosen one, this was for you. Not a coincidence. Not just another message. This was divine alignment. You've walked through fire, doubt, and silence, and now you've reached a moment where heaven has confirmed what your soul already suspected. You are called. You are chosen. You are ready. This wasn't about motivation. It was about activation. What you've just received wasn't information, it was impartation. And now, the weight of this message will follow you, not to crush you, but to commission you. The time for passive faith is over. The time for private fire with no public obedience is over. Now is the hour of movement, voice, boldness, and fire. And if something inside you has shifted, if your spirit is alive with confirmation, then don't walk away quietly. Comment below, I receive my crown. Let that be your final declaration. A line in the sand, a spiritual record that in this moment you responded. Like this message, if something inside of you caught fire, share this word with someone else who is still stuck in the shadows of their potential. Let your obedience become their breakthrough. Subscribe to stay connected to what heaven continues to release. This isn't a one-time word, it's a flow, a prophetic stream for the marked and the misfit. For those who know they carry something holy and are ready to walk in it without apology. You are not alone. You are not late. You are His. The angels have moved. The heavens have spoken. Now go and walk like one who wears a crown.